funny thing about this novel, this is 30 years or 20 years of experience crammed into 220 pages. I never really thought it would come out. I wrote a very personal novel. People claim it's autobiographical, but it's actually synthesized experience and magnified experience. It's about an artist who was once successful in the 80s and 90s. I was also had that happen to me. Then after 9/11, he suffers a nervous breakdown and finds himself living in a motel room. It's over. But then a collector who owns 100 of his paintings invests in his career, and he's going to make a big comeback. So a lot of it's about art. And so I just want to read this little section for you that captures what my feelings about art. On the streets of New York City, Milo chased a dream of immortality. Each time he made a painting, he was freeze-drying a moment. Frozen moments are everlasting. While people are reluctant to surrender 2 hours to a movie, there will always be people who will stand in line outside a museum just for the chance of walking by the soundless works on canvas or the mute creations made of wood or steel or marble. And the tired yet eager tourists from around the world will line up year-round to crane their necks upward to witness Michelangelo's orgy-like ode to flesh, gesture, and muscle, which is the Sistine Chapel. You would think by the long lines that this was the opening of a Harry Potter movie. But no, it's for Michelangelo, Picasso, and Van Gogh that they wait and will continue to wait to see their art. Clusters of people queue around the bulletproof shrine that is the Mona Lisa, just to catch a glimpse of her monochrome mystery. These works will always be relevant to those that travel or those who just wander in the afternoons. That's another theme in this novel is alienation. I mean, in that mid-period when he's out of it, he becomes part of the people that wander around, you know, in the afternoon, going to coffee shops and lost. So in this section I like to read, it captures that feeling of alienation and the kind of things that he might see. When Milo was young but getting older, he sometimes felt guilty for becoming powerful and independent. He wanted to apologize to his parents for growing up, for becoming a man, and for living on his own. His father used to tell him to just do it, long before this became a slogan for Nike. Milo was roaming through Barnes & Noble. He saw the man with the gray hair in the cafe again. He was well groomed with crew-cut hair. He was clean-shaven, and his gait displayed impeccable posture. The man ordered the usual, a bagel and a mochaccino. How did these men become Barnes & Noble bachelors, living and feeding on whatever polite bits of kindness the employees provided, living on the hope that maybe today some woman browsing through current paperbacks might be the one, those that wander in the afternoon? What about the other man Milo saw outside bus or taxi windows most afternoons? The man in the wheelchair who was legless and overweight, yet always took in the afternoon sun, be it the hot August sun or the cold February night. No matter the season, this man was out there wheeling himself up the street like a sentry. Or the Asian schizophrenic dapper in his tight-fitting second-hand suits who preferred the locally owned and smoke-filled coffee shops that were peopled with scrappy post-punk adolescents. That Asian man who was as silent as Buster Keaton and who busied himself through the day getting refills of coffee and filling his black pipe with tobacco and sucking on smoke. Sometimes he would ask the barista for a phone book and he would search for a business or a person. He never made calls, he didn't have a phone. These were the men who were always out when Milo was out. And so it got Milo thinking, was he also one of the lonely walking landmarks? Did people look at him and say, there goes so-and-so again, man on the cusp of loitering? Maybe he was one of them after all. But Milo took solace in the hope that he had a way out. Enjoy your leisure time, Nick would say, because soon this business will take off and you're going to be very busy. Milo mused as to whether there would come a day when he would miss his days of anonymity. As he walked his dog past trees and the people were shrouded and shaded within the beautiful green bubbles of their lives, he reminded himself that his impending success didn't mean that he was going to live forever, only that his paintings, like children and grandchildren, would survive him in white-walled museum institutions where people from around the world would walk right up to them and, if he was lucky, yawn. Another regular in the army of afternoon wanderers was an aging anorexic lady who jogged in all white and wore oversized sunglasses like Jean Harlow. She was the last of the 4 lost souls that Milo repeatedly saw. and he wondered if he might become the fifth meandering musketeer, but for the grace of Nick's rescue mission. Milo feared he what otherwise might be known as the 40-something artiste who drank Earl Grey tea and chatted up unsuspecting college students and looked eternally boyish. But Milo was to be saved from becoming obsolete, like vinyl recordings, typewriters, and double-feature drive-ins. Samantha was napping, knowing she had summer haystacks of time left in her life. She was his ticket to longevity. As Milo grew older, his girlfriends became younger. Sometimes when he painted, he felt like he was cheating time. He felt like he was producing square babies made of color, and his children would live as long as acrylics lasted. And that was forecast to be a long time, considering they were made of plastic. When times became tough like this, Milo felt defeated. Picasso would often brew some espresso and tell him, always be painting. Yes, Milo should always be making more square babies. So that's a little insight into that mid-period. And now, Milo has an envious brother who is what would like to be a painter, but he's a house painter, and Milo's an artist. And his brother's always having affairs with the women that he paints the households of. That's his little claim to fame. His mother is dying, and the brother is coming to town very soon, and his brother basically wants to kill Milo when he gets there. And so here's an insight into the brother's state of mind. Dead artists did not come to, like archangels, to visit his brother as he meticulously primed the walls of another home like a madman priming the walls of an asylum. He was pressing some wealthy man's wife up against the plasterboard as she revealed to him that her husband barely touched her, and she would surely soon be leaving him, but it was not the practical thing to do at the time. Now she backed him up against the wall, which kicked up a little white cocaine-like plaster dust. He already felt cornered by fate, which had rendered him talentless. He too tried his hand at painting, but due to a lack of draftsmanship ability, he was doomed to a world of abstraction. Not out of choice, because if he had a choice, he would make the paintings that he saw in his dreams. He wished he could paint sci-fi fantasies where Herculean men floated in cosmos with their voluptuous female counterparts scantily clad like Greek slaves. As he kissed this other woman, Ray thought of his wife and her fashionable but prematurely white hair, and how it seemed to him that she too was having an affair, not with a man, but with her indulgent need to compete in poetry slams with performers half her age. As he lay in this other man down on the tarp of the interior of her unfinished home and began the monotony of undressing her, Ray found himself preoccupied by a plan. His flight to Gold Haven was already booked for 6:45 that evening. The plan was simple, and it was to destroy his brother's chance at newfound success. I hope my brother doesn't hear this. It's loosely based. It's not true at all. Someone's got to be the villain. I mean, you only have so many colors to work with. You have the villain, you have the good guy, you have the angels, the Picasso and the Van Gogh who look down on him, and those are the colors you work with. I think when somebody asked me in an interview the other day, are you always afraid that your family's going to read this? And I never thought that it would come out, so now that it came out, they're reading it. Luckily, the only one I'm worried about hasn't read it yet. Knock on wood, he won't ever read it. So, I came to Grand Rapids and I no longer painted because I couldn't afford to paint, and I took up writing, and I was asked by my sister, who's a filmmaker, to write a script. So I wrote a script, and then she read it, and she said, this is going to take millions to make. I can't make this. So then I thought, okay, I'll write novels, because in my novels, there is no budget. I can spend millions and millions of dollars in imagery. It's not going to cost a penny. So I took the bull by the horn and started writing novels. So I've written about 7 novels, and this one's the first one that's come out, and another one called Seeing Soraya is coming out, which is a dark mystery fantasy, and it would probably say on the cover, a shocking novel from the writer of Dead Artists. And I wrote an even more novel that my mother edits my novels, and she says, I don't want to be alive when this novel comes out. And then I read it, I workshopped the novel, everyone's like, that one's hot. So now my mother's like, has second thoughts about living a little longer while that one comes out.